The genre of jazz can feel like an absolute maze, weird time signatures, endless solos, and just way too many places to start your collection. But here's the truth, jazz doesn't have to be intimidating. In this video, I've picked 7 albums that are absolute timeless and perfect for beginners to jump into the genre. These records are soulful, groove heavy, and emotionally rich. And most importantly, they sound amazing on vinyl. So, no, you're not going to hear me say Kind of Blue. You're not going to hear me say Blue Train. So welcome back to the vinyl narrative and let's dive in. Okay, so first up we have Kenny Burrell, Midnight Blue. Now this was released back in 1963 by Blue Note Records. It's a legendary album. This edition, this particular one, is from 2024, released as part of the Blue Note Classic series. It's pressed on blue vinyl for their 85th anniversary and pressed at Optimal Media. And it just sounds fantastic to my ears. And if jazz had that kind of cool summer nights breeze vibe to it, this is the album you'd be playing in the background, I think. It's bluesy, it's mellow, and it's just really inviting to my ears. You've got Kenny Burrell's warm guitar tone, you've got Stanley Turrentine's smoky sax, and then you've got the congas from Ray Barretto, which adds a really nice Latin jazz feel. And it's just the kind of album that, you know, makes you feel good, I think, and a perfect gateway for you to get into jazz. While everyone kind of recommends, I think, Dave Brubeck's Time Out as the most accessible jazz album ever, I would stand this one up against it. I think it's way more kind of emotionally grounded, and it doesn't rely on unusual time signatures to kind of catch your ear. So my recommendation would be Kenny Burrell's Midnight Blue. On to some more Blue Note now. So we have Lee Morgan, the Gigolo, recorded in 1965 and released on Blue Note Records in 1968. This is another Blue Notes Classics reissue from 2024, pressed at Optimal Media on black vinyl in a nice rice paper sleeve. Sounds fantastic again, another great release from the Blue Note Classic series. Yeah, this album is just funky, it's kind of swaggering, hard bop. One of their greatest trumpeters, Lee Morgan. I think it's a bit under the radar, especially when you compare it to Lee Morgan's The Sidewinder. That's his really big release. But I think this one's just as catchy and it's even more adventurous. You've got Wayne Shorter on the tenor sax. This record just oozes character for me. And I think a lot of lists would throw in like Something Else by Cannonball Adderley as the release to get into, which is a fantastic album, don't get me wrong, I love it. But this is just looser, it's bolder, and it makes you feel like you're stepping into a smoky jazz club at midnight in New York City. I just love it. So there you go, Lee Morgan, the Gigolo. Right, my final recommendation that's on Blue Note Records is Hank Mobley's Soul Station, released originally back in 1960. This one is from 2021 on the Blue Notes Classics series, another one of those fantastic reissue series in my opinion, just kind of affordable, high quality releases, pressed at Optimal Media, and this one sounds really good. I got lucky with this copy because I think some people have got some very noisy copies, but I didn't. I think this album, you know, if you want one that just glides, this is the one. It's a typical Hank Mobley blow-in session on the sax. His tone is just really buttery smooth, and the whole album just feels, you know, effortless. It's kind of hard bop without the hard edges, if you will. It's melodic and smooth without being too soft. You've got, I think, typically you'd find John Coltrane's Blue Train is usually the go-to that people will recommend, but I think Soul Station, it shows how powerful restraint and feel can be, really. He doesn't shout on this record, he kind of speaks gently and it just lands. I love it. So many great melodies, so many great phrases on here. Just really easy to get into and have on in the background, but it also picks up your attention. So there you go, Hank Mobley, Soul Station. Right, it's time to step outside of kind of bebop and hard bop jazz. It's time to get a little bit more funky. And with that, we have Johnny Hammond, Gears. This was released back in 1975. It was originally released on Milestone Records, one of my favourite kind of underappreciated jazz labels, I guess. But this is a reissue from Jazz Dispensary, part of the Craft Recordings label. Back from 2023. This is a repress that they did. Unfortunately, I missed the original pressing they did. But yeah, it's just such a funky record. Produced by the Mizell brothers, and this, it's a groove lover's dream, this record. It's synthy, it's funky, it's soulful jazz, and it's just got so much kind of crossover and jazz fusion appeal. So many of the tracks have been sampled off of this record. Jamiroquai is pulled from it quite a lot. And I think a lot of kind of beginners lists would stick with like 50s or 60s jazz when they're recommending jazz to get into. But I think Gears just kind of, it's a very important release. It proves that jazz can keep evolving and get even cooler in the process. So yeah, don't sleep on this one. This is Johnny Hammond, Gears. Okay, next up we're going straight into the modern age, and I'm going to hit you with Yussef Dayes, Black Classical Music. This was released in 2023 on Brownswood Recordings. They're part of the Warner Music Group, I believe. But this album, Black Classical Music, just blew me away. It's kind of cinematic, it's percussive, and there's spiritual elements to this as well. I think Yussef Dayes, he just channels the past and the future on this record. He's blended jazz, kind of Afrobeat, broken beat as well. I think there's a bit of that on there, into something fresh but kind of timeless as well. Most lists I think would stop at the 60s, like I say, 50s and 60s kind of for the golden era of jazz, but I've decided to go more into a cross spectrum, and I think this record proves that jazz is very much still alive. And if you're new to the genre, I think this might be a really good starting point actually, and probably one of the records that will grab you the quickest. It's just really accessible. I love it. There's so many collaborators on here as well. Sounds really good. It's pressed against two white LPs, white vinyl LPs there. And yeah, I love it. I can't say anything better about this record. It's just one to pretty put on first and to see what grabs you. Okay, I've saved two heavy hitters for last. So up at number 6, we have John Coltrane, A Love Supreme. And this was originally released in 1965. This one is the Acoustic Sound Series reissue from 2020. Pressed at QRP, so quality record pressings. A lovely thick gatefold sleeve with the prayer down there and the letter from John Coltrane himself, and a lovely piece of art there, just showcasing the great man himself. It's considered by some to be one of the greatest albums ever recorded, and I don't disagree with that at all. It's spiritual, it's deep, but I think it's got an incredible kind of human feeling at the end of the day. Coltrane just kind of pours his heart and soul into this 4-piece suite. It's written as a prayer, a personal prayer after he beat heroin addiction, and that definitely comes across in the music as well. You'll notice it as soon as you start listening to it, but the track Acknowledgement is just iconic. You'll know it as soon as it starts, but I think the whole album deserves to be listened to in one sitting. It's just a journey of an album. The only thing that might be slightly off-putting for newbies to jazz is the stereo panning of this record. It's panned very wide, but that's typical of jazz, to be honest. The way that some of the stereo mixes were done back in the day, it kind of feels like you're in the room with them, as if the band's playing in front of you, and that's what you're trying to emulate. But most importantly, I think mono copies of this are very hard to come by and also very expensive. So I've settled for this kind of reissue, but I will hopefully pick one of those up one day. And I think while kind of his album Blue Train is the one that's kind of a traditional intro to jazz, I think A Love Supreme kind of shows you why he mattered in the genre. And this is kind of jazz that just transcends the genre for me. It's incredible piece of music and just an absolute feat in music making. So there you go. A Love Supreme by John Coltrane. Okay, and now on to my final recommendation from arguably the best man to ever do it in the genre. he changed the course of jazz multiple times throughout his career, is Miles Davis, and I've gone with Relaxin with the Miles Davis Quintet. Now, this was released back in 1956, recorded in 1956, but released in 1958. And this is the original Jazz Classics reissue from 2020, cut in mono and pressed at RTI in the US. I know what you're thinking, where's Kind of Blue, where's Bitches Brew, all those classic albums that you definitely know from the man. If you hear me out, I think Relaxing kind of comes from that same, genius. It's just more relaxed, forgive the pun. It's more spontaneous, and honestly, this record I think is just more fun to listen to, especially if you're a beginner. It's not too intimidating, and it's really rewarding. It's one of the 4 albums that this quintet recorded in 2 days, which was just amazing that they managed to cover 4 albums in 2 days. And this is part of his first quintet. So we had Paul Chambers on bass, Red Garland on piano, John Coltrane, who we just heard from, on the sax, and Philly Joe Jones on the drums, and then Miles Davis on the trumpet. It just swings from start to finish, this album. Kind of Blue, it's a perfect album. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely love Kind of Blue, but this is just, playful, it's stylish, it's, pure Miles Davis, everything you come to expect from the man before he went into that kind of modal era of jazz. So there we go, my final recommendation for you, Relaxing with the Miles Davis Quintet. Okay, so that's my list of 7 timeless albums to help you get into the genre of jazz. No Kind of Blue, no Take 5, and there's definitely no kind of Spotify recommendation in there. These albums just cover like soul jazz, spiritual jazz, jazz funk, jazz fusion, and a bit of hard bop as well. So you've got a nice cross section of the genre without being too overwhelming for you. So tell me, which one are you going to spin first, and which beginner jazz records do you think should have made the cut, really? I'd be interested to know which ones you think you'd include in that list if you're a jazz aficionado or just not that new to the genre. But lastly, don't forget to like and subscribe for more recommendations from myself, and I will see you in the next Crate Dig.